News that covers the breaking events of 12 counties in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. Think WNDS NewsNow. The NewsNow journalists make it their #1 priority to bring all the important stories of the region to you. You'll get the information you need, plus a recap of the day's college and high school games and a weather report by the region's most accurate meteorologist. WNDS NewsNow, the local news that fits your life. Weeknights at 7 and 10 on WNDS. The Cosby Show, weekdays at 3:30 on WNDS. Live from WNDS-TV, this is News Now at 10.
A possible connection between a stabbing victim and this Massachusetts woman.
Already convicted, will Michael Skagel get a new trial in the beating death of Martha Moxley?
And this man pleads guilty to training attack pit bulls.
A Seattle man is indicted on charges of conspiring to assist Al-Qaeda. Good evening, everyone. I'm Katie Brace.
And I'm Dan Kloeffler. Those indictments announced in full detail today at a press conference in Washington.
First, that Mr. Ujamaa provided material support and resources to Al-Qaeda, a designated foreign terrorist organization. And secondly, that he sought to provide material support and resources to others with the knowledge and the intent that this support and these resources would be used to prepare for and to carry out a conspiracy to destroy property and to murder and maim others.
This indictment also states that James Ernest Ujamaa led discussions about the need for training in armed robbery and firebombing vehicles. He's been detained for more than a month after he was arrested as a material witness to terrorist activity. Ujamaa himself has denied those accusations.
Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the senior Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee is calling for hearings on a possible invasion on Iraq. Virginia Senator John Warner says he wants Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld to present the administration's plans. There appears to be differences in the facts presented by the Bush administration and the plans provided to Congress. And back in New Hampshire, a Newton man receives jail time for training dogs to fight. Christopher DeVito was sentenced to 2 years in prison. He had pleaded guilty to 24 counts of animal cruelty. Back in January, authorities searched DeVito's property. They took more than 40 dogs from the home. Many of the animals were suffering from battle injuries and had to be euthanized. Animal rights groups say they are pleased with today's sentence.
We're really pleased. I think the judge set a really strong sentence and a strong message to both animal advocates that have been big supporters in this and animal fighters that are out there.
In addition to jail time, DeVito will pay $62,000 to cover the cost of boarding and caring for those dogs.
A Massachusetts priest accused of sexually abusing a child is back at his New Hampshire home tonight. Father Robert Gale was arraigned in Middlesex Superior Court today and pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of rape. He was released on his own recognizance. Gale was assigned to St. Jude's Parish in Waltham during the 1980s, where the alleged abuse took place. Prosecutors say that the victim was 10 at the time and recently came forward. Gale was arrested yesterday at his Middleton, New Hampshire home. He's the 8th priest in the Boston Archdiocese facing criminal charges this year.
A Shirley police officer remains in critical condition. Sergeant Dale Prentice was shot in the line of duty early this morning. He was responding to a 911 call of a man attempting to rape 2 women. The suspect, Henry Favreau, shot Prentice in the abdomen. Officer Prentice was not wearing a bulletproof vest and did have to undergo surgery. He did manage to shoot Favreau twice, and he is also in the hospital listed in critical condition. This is the 2nd shooting in Shirley, Massachusetts in 8 years. The town is located near the New Hampshire border, near Ayer and Townsend.
Also from the Bay State, disturbing details about the stabbing death of a 25-year-old woman. Prosecutors say that 26-year-old Katushka Garcia is responsible for the stabbing death of Daisy Correas. The victim's body was reportedly stabbed 3 times, stuffed in a duffel bag, and left at a waste bin in Revere. The bag was then transported to a recycling center in Rhode Island. Today, Garcia was arraigned in a Boston court. She's being held without bail. The spokesperson with the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office says the 2 reportedly were involved in a relationship. That stabbing reportedly occurred during an argument at an East Boston hotel.
The fate of Kennedy cousin Michael Skakel is still undetermined as the court began the sentence hearing earlier today. In Norwalk, Connecticut, a judge rejected the notion for a new trial, despite the argument by Skakel's lawyers who say prosecutors failed to turn over crucial evidence. Skakel is convicted of murdering childhood neighbor Martha Moxley near their Greenwich, Connecticut home, and he could face 10 years to life in prison. The sentence hearing will resume tomorrow.
Nationally, also, the penalty phase in the David Westerfield case began today. He's the man convicted of the murder of 7-year-old Danielle Van Dam. Today, the little girl's father took the stand. He told jurors that since Danielle's disappearance, her two brothers have become frightened and the family no longer feels safe. Van Dam says he has felt a sense of shock and disbelief since his daughter's disappearance. A jury will decide whether David Westerfield will be sentenced to death or whether he will face a life in prison sentence for the kidnapping and killing of Danielle Van Dam.
The lead suspect in the disappearance of missing Utah teen Elizabeth Smart remains in critical condition. Richard Reese collapsed in his Utah jail cell. Doctors say he suffered from an aneurysm or stroke yesterday. Reese is a former handyman for the Smart family. He was behind bars accused of stealing from the Smart's home. Reese has not been charged in connection with Elizabeth Smart's disappearance. Utah investigators are saying his illness could affect the Smart case.
WorldCom is facing some more trouble. The company's chief financial officer is indicted on securities fraud. Scott Sullivan is accused of helping to hide billions of dollars in company expenses and help WorldCom's financial position appear to be better than it was. Also named in the indictment are 3 other accounting executives. Sullivan apparently instructed them to shift costs from operating to capital accounts. Today's indictment was handed down in New York after plea negotiations apparently broke down.
And still to come on News Now at 10, the primaries are almost upon us, and there's some surprising numbers in the latest poll.
We'll have that. Also coming up in sports, as the Patriots prepare for their final preseason tune-up, New England's top signal caller is rewarded for his Super Bowl efforts with a new contract. Mike DeBlasi joins us with the details a little bit later.
And the Granite State prepares for 500,000 people this Labor Day weekend. Those stories and much more ahead on News Now at 10.
City's newest coaster soars over 6 Flags New England. With no floor underfoot, just strapped to a flying chair. 14 stories in the air. Introducing Batman The Dark Knight, the newest of 8 heroic coasters at 6 Flags New England. So big, so close.
Save up to $10 with discount coupons from Tedeschi's Food Shops and Little Peach.
As a nation, we've faced some tough challenges that have taught us how precious life is. But many of us, myself included, face a more private challenge: prostate cancer. Each year, almost 200,000 men are diagnosed with this treatable disease. Survival rates are over 90% when detected early. If you're a man over 40, do yourself and your loved ones a favor. Ask your doctor about a screening. It's simple, painless, and just might save your life. And tell him Rudy sent you.
2 weeks to go in the hotly contested New Hampshire gubernatorial primary, and tonight candidates faced off in another debate. 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats shared the stage at St. Anselm College. Candidates questioned each other on issues like income tax and education plans. The debate became heated at one point when Democratic candidate Mark Fernald accused Republicans of running expensive negative campaigns with few messages. Tomorrow night, the congressional candidates for District 1 face off on their debate. Also, the latest poll in the race for the Democratic nomination for governor shows a 14-point margin, with Fernald leading over Bev Hollingworth. The American Research Group asked 600 likely Democratic voters who they support. 47% sided with State Senator Mark Fernald, 33% with former Senate President Bev Hollingworth. With less than 2 weeks before that primary, 20% still remain undecided.
And in the intense race for the Republican gubernatorial nomination, candidate Gordon Humphrey is taking aim at Craig Benson's treatment of women. Senator Gordon Humphrey's campaign is focusing on sexual harassment allegations against Benson. Benson was accused of sexual harassment while at Cabletron, the company he founded. Benson did not directly respond to the comments, saying the campaign should be about the issues.
Craig Benson and his company were found guilty of sexual discrimination against women and fined the largest amount in New Hampshire history. And Craig Benson has a TV ad where he refuses to take responsibility and continues to deny his record of sexual discrimination against women.
There have been very few press conferences about issues from my opponents. And I think it's about time the voters got to understand that the campaign is not about Craig Benson. It's about solving our education, fixing our economy, making sure our health care system works, and also reforming state government.
In related to campaign 2002 news, dozens of law enforcement officials are endorsing Craig Benson. They announced their support today in response to Benson announcing he supports the expansion of the death penalty to cover all homicides.
Congressional candidate Charlie Bass in Concord tonight, speaking at the Republicans for Choice reception. Bass, a strong pro-choice advocate, was the keynote speaker at the event, held each year to honor those Republicans who support Roe versus Wade.
It's a personal decision for me and for everybody else who's involved with it, and I've been an adherent to that view now for 12 or 14 years, and I think it's the right position for New Hampshire and for America.
Representative Bass, who replaced Dick Sweat, will be running against either Katrina Sweat or Norm Jackman for the 2nd congressional district seat.
And with the primaries only 2 weeks away, WNDS will continue to hit the campaign trail to follow the candidates. And as part of our election coverage, Your Candidates, Your Choice, WNDS will host a congressional meet and greet. The forum will feature the candidates vying for the Republican nomination for U.S. Congress, and that will air Tuesday night, September 3rd at 7:30 p.m. Also, primary night, September 10th, WNDS reporters will be stationed at candidates' headquarters across southern New Hampshire. We'll bring you up-to-date and live information throughout the evening.
In other news, 2 more birds test positive for West Nile virus, bringing the total number of towns affected by that disease to 10 for the state of New Hampshire. The dead birds were found in Surrey, following last week's discovery of infected mosquitoes. West Nile has also been reported in a number of other towns as well. Fortunately, though, no humans have contracted that virus.
A historic walkway is being built to honor the state's veterans. PSNH and Verizon are sponsoring Memorial Bricks, which will create a walkway at the Veterans Cemetery. The companies are challenging others to support the Memorial Brick campaign.
As an employer of more than 2,000 employees in the state, we have many that have are veterans themselves or have parents that were involved with any of the war's ancestors, and it's a great way to memorialize their service to the country.
To encourage its employees to contribute, Verizon is matching employees' purchase of those bricks. And there's a new program to help smokers quit with just a touch of a few buttons. The Granite State is now offering a new toll-free hotline. The hotline will provide support and self-help information for people trying to quit smoking, as well as referrals for tobacco treatment counseling. The new hotline number is 1-800-TRY-TO-STOP.
All right, still ahead on News Now in this week's Faces and Places with Eric Shiner. He profiles the man that is responsible for, well, basically what you're watching right now. We'll take a look at that when we return.
What are you doing? I'm writing Christine a letter to tell her about Emily's first tooth.
2 o'clock in the morning?
It's a mom thing.
Okay.
I don't have the words to thank you for having the courage to give us our most precious gift. We can only thank you by raising her the way you'd always hoped. How'd you do that?
It's a dad thing. Will you tell her thanks from me?
Adoption. It's about love. A message from LDS Family Services.
Each week, NewsNow's Eric Shiner brings us a unique story about New England. And in tonight's Faces and Places, he introduces us to the man that changed broadcasting forever.
The face is that of a man that many don't know. The man who made it possible to enjoy watching football games on the weekend. In fact, without him, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. He's Philo Farnsworth, the inventor of broadcast television, a concept that he came up with at the age of 14.
born in a log cabin in Utah, no electricity, running water, etc. And like I said, little formal education, the 3 R's, and so he then apparently was just a genius.
And John's TV Repair in Conway is the place honoring the genius of Farnsworth this week, holding special events and displays in honor of the 75th anniversary of the television's invention. An invention that Farnsworth never made that much money from, and pitted him against corporate giant RCA.
Philo was a small-time operator by the standards of RCA, and they thought they would be able to just thwart him, or just get around him, or buy him out, or intimidate him, and they tried all those things.
RCA finally started paying Farnsworth royalties in 1939 after a lengthy court battle. But Farnsworth's victory was short-lived. During World War II, the government suspended the sales of television sets. By the time the war ended, his patent had just about expired.
47 was the same year his 17-year patent ran out, and so gone were the chances of getting rich from his invention.
Farnsworth has been recognized as one of the greatest inventors of all time, but he seems to have been forgotten by the public. So why is John's TV Repair trying to tune Farnsworth back into the picture? Because this is the shop Farnsworth brought his television set to be repaired when he lived across the border in Maine. For Faces and Places, I'm Eric Shiner.
All right, Eric, thank you for that. Last big weekend of the summer beginning this Friday, and of course a record number of tourists are predicted to make their way to the Granite State. About 500,000 people altogether are expected to visit New Hampshire. Tourists are expected to spend about $75 million this weekend. That's an increase for the past 6 years as more money is being spent on promoting some of New Hampshire's activities and attractions. And speaking of one of the attractions that New Hampshire has, Kaprielian, what do you got for us?
Do you think that attract people to New Hampshire?
Yeah, maybe a small percentage. Of course you do, Al. We're doing this most accurate meteorologist.
Thank you very much, Stan. Well, if you're coming to New Hampshire, what will your weekend bring? Will it be nice Saturday to start the long weekend? We'll find out after the break.
How will we remember them? Work a soup kitchen for John Perry. Plant trees for Tuan Pham. Fill a library with books for Hilda Taylor. Donate musical instruments for Irvin Gaylord, who loved jazz. Start a food drive in honor of Michael Esposito.
Unity in the Spirit of America is a volunteer program to honor each American lost September 11th. Find out how you can help in your community.
Let's build a playground for Juliana McCourt.
And now, weather with Al Kaprielian.
Good evening, everyone. Around the region, we have the rainfall. It's getting close to the south coast of Connecticut now. Even though it's showing up on radar, that doesn't mean it's making it down to the ground. We have a lot of dry air at low levels, folks. When it evaporates before it hits the ground, we call that virga. And there may be some virga around for the morning commute. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of precip over southern New England as you head out to work. Those of you that are going to work tomorrow, you don't have the day off, it will be raining, but it may not be quite making it to the ground, but by lunchtime or afternoon, especially Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, may make it to the ground. Weather watchers, we have 61, Chris Shelby in Auburn, 60 from Wyndham, from Chris Sabato. Sean Murphy not going to school for another week or so. He went for a 12-mile bike ride, had a great time, nice and cool on the bike. 57 at Hampton Falls today, 59 from Ben Bloshin, who's headed back to UNH, Dan, your old stopping ground. Ben and Chris leaving Sunday morning. 59 from Magdalena and John in Nashua. We have 60 from Pam Green in Merrimack, New Hampshire. Linda Davis, 60 in Chelmsford. And Nathan has gone back to Bryant. Did a great job interning with Dorothy, our marketing director, this summer. Nathan has gone back this morning to Bryant College, a big business major down there. Linda has 60, and 60 from Mimi and Lowell. Matt Fearman, 61 in West Boxford. It was 78, the warm spot in the Granite State. It was Lebanon, New Hampshire. Concord, 77. Nashua, 73. Manchester, 75. That guarantee was 78. talk about living on the edge. Sometimes I don't know how I do it. Trough in the jet. This is a trough that's going to bring some moisture up into south coastal New England. A broad easterly fetch means that we will have some big waves along east-facing coastal areas from the Carolinas up to New England. Rain tomorrow, heavy by evening commute or nighttime. South of Boston, they could get 2 inches plus. Mass, Connecticut, especially south of Boston and the Cape. Probably an inch or less. Northern Mass and under an inch southern New Hampshire. 60s, 70s north and west of Concord, New Hampshire. The best weather tomorrow, Maine. Head north of Vermont. The rain pulls out, high pressure comes in, and the Bermuda High may build back. And yes, there's the tropics. We're going to watch that system out in the Atlantic. And there's your 1995 was the year. All right, notice we have a Dean in the studio. You saw Dean number 4 there. Mostly cloudy, cool tonight, 50 to 60. Rain comes in tomorrow afternoon, becoming heavy at times south of Boston. Late day or evening, they could get over 2 inches. South Shore towns, the Cape, probably an inch or 2 if you're watching me west of Boston. We have a lot of viewers in the western suburbs of the city, an inch to 2 there. Probably under an inch on southern New Hampshire. And as you get north of Laconia, it's going to drop off. Probably nothing in the mountains in the mid-coast of Maine.
And that's...
Yes, we'll have a big update on the noon update tomorrow. Any changes tomorrow night and noon.
So we go from one man living on the edge
Mr. K.
to another man trying.
Living on the edge. Isn't it Living on a Prayer? No, that's Bon Jovi. Yeah. It's a Bon Jovi reference, people. The Patriots face their final preseason test of the summer tomorrow night when they take on the high-powered Redskins in Washington. I have a preview, plus a look at the opening game for the UNH football team. And on the diamond, the Red Sox playoff hopes in desperate need of a win. They turn to Pedro Martinez in their final Fenway Park appearance against the Yankees. Complete highlights with all the day's sports coming up next.
Mrs. Lawson.
I'm sorry. I still don't have it all.
I can't keep coming back like this. I need the rent.
I know, it's just that I have 3 kids.
Was that the door, Mom?
No one, Emily. Would you go back and watch your brother, please?
I don't know what to do.
Oh, it's okay. Here we go.
And now, sports with Mike DeBlasi.
At Fenway Park tonight, the final regular season appearance by the Yankees. Boston hoping for a better result than last night after managing just 5 hits and a 6-0 loss. Entering play, the home team 8 behind the Pinstripes in the AL East and 3 back of the Seattle Mariners for the wild card. Before the game, the Massachusetts state champion Little Leaguers from Worcester honored on the field. Their idol's a bit sloppy to start. Alfonso Soriano leads off the game with this bouncer that Shea Hillenbrand muffs into a 2-base error that would be costly. Soriano comes around to score on a double play later in the frame for a 1-0 New York lead. Pedro Martinez avoids further damage, stranding a pair of runners by whiffing Jorge Posada for the final out. Sox down 1-0 in the 5th. Yanks at first and third, 1 out, but Pedro cranks it up, blowing strike 3 past Jason Giambi, then setting down Bernie Williams to get out of the mess. On the opposite hill, Mike Mussina picking up where David Wells left off last night. Jason Varitek down on strikes. Boston unable to get the bats going. With 2 outs in the 6th, trailing by 2, Alan Embry relieves Pedro and promptly serves up home run number 17 on the year to Williams. Bernie's blast extends his hit streak to 19 and gives the Bombers a 5-0 cushion. More than enough from Mussina. He seems to be at his best against Boston, and that's the case again tonight. The veteran throws a complete game shutout, striking out 9 and allowing just 3 hits. New York wins 7-0. So in the 2-game set, New York out-hits the Sox 22-8 and outscores them 13-0. Handing the home team back-to-back shutout defeats for the first time at the Fen since 1943. The Sox have tomorrow off before starting a weekend series with the Indians. Friday night in Cleveland. Of course, the Sox may not head to Cleveland at all if players and owners can't come to terms on a new labor agreement. The strike deadline of 2:30 Friday afternoon is fast approaching, and the two sides remain deadlocked on several issues. In an effort to resolve things, Commissioner Bud Selig taking part in negotiations today. With the clock ticking like a time bomb, we can only hope that Selig helps bridge the gap. Well, big doings in Foxborough today, at least for quarterback Tom Brady and his bank account. The Patriots rewarding the Super Bowl MVP with a new long-term contract. The agreement reached this morning with talks between the Pats and Brady's agent heating up earlier this week. Details of the deal have not been released, but the signal caller will see a big jump in salary. Brady's scheduled to earn $375,000 this season as part of his first NFL contract, an amount far below market value. The former 6th-round draft choice rising from obscurity to lead the Pats to their first ever Super Bowl championship last winter. The 24-year-old starting 14 games, completing nearly 64% of his passes and earning a Pro Bowl invitation. Meanwhile, Brady and his teammates preparing for their final preseason contest. Tomorrow night's showdown with the Redskins in Washington. A contrast in styles and the first chance for head coach Bill Belichick to match his defensive genius against first-year Skins coach Steve Spurrier's high-octane offense. In 4 preseason games, all victories, Spurrier's club has scored an amazing 150 points. In his successful history at the University of Florida, Spurrier never shy about running up the score and putting as many points on the board as possible. His philosophy rubbing many coaches, players, and fans the wrong way. But Belichick and the Pats aren't about to get involved in the controversy.
I'm a lot more concerned about my team than his team right now, and that goes for the other 31 teams too. You know, I'm just coaching one, and I'm trying to do the best I can with that and try to get that right.
I mean, he's doing his job. I mean, it's not his fault he's running up the score. It's the defense's fault for letting him. So, I mean, he's just doing his job, as far as I'm concerned. You can't run up a score.
We're going to go out there and compete the best we can, and hopefully our defense is up to the task. And you know, I'm sure a lot of the offense guys will be curious to see what his offense is all about, but we realize, you know, we got a job to do too.
Would you like to play under an offense like that?
I don't know, go talk to Charlie. I'll see if we can air it out a little bit more.
Collegiately, the games count for the UNH Wildcats, starting with tomorrow night's season opener at Division I-A Kent State University. UNH head coach Sean McDonald is hoping for a strong effort against the Golden Flash, and he knows that for the Cats to be successful this fall, they will have to show up on defense after allowing a staggering 475 yards and nearly 35 points per game last year.
It's paramount to our program getting back to where it belongs. And it's got to be baby steps. You can't look for it in 1 game or 2 games. It's got to be a consistent growth throughout the season. Kids playing hard, kids doing the things well, kids being conscious of their assignments, kids running the football, kids tackling better. It's paramount that we, you know, stay on task and focus the whole time.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. Still ahead on News Now, we have a whole new way to make tomato sauce. Just ahead.
Hi, I'm Jessica Simpson. When your parents look at you, what do you think they see? Probably the little kid you were years ago, running, playing, not a care in the world. But you're not a little kid anymore, and the world is now a very different place. You see things every day that would shock your parents, things that would upset them, things that would scare them. So you keep it to yourself. But then you can't talk about your feelings, the fear, the self-doubt, the frustration. Sure, you can talk to your friends, but they're in the same place, experiencing the same things. So who can you talk to? The Girls and Boys Town National Hotline. 24/7, they're ready to offer help, support, and advice when you need it the most. The call is free. All you have to do is pick up the phone. 1-800-448-3000. That's 1-800-448-3000. The Girls and Boys Town National Hotline. Any problem, anytime.
Screaming tomato and tomato in the Spanish town of Bono Wednesday. 35,000 people hurled, lobbed, and flung fruit in the annual Tomatina Festival. The tomato throwers spent an hour pelting each other with 120 tons of plum tomatoes. Afterwards, everyone was washed down with high-powered
That's a DeBlasi family reunion right there, isn't it?
We only knew what went on behind the scenes
Here's
here.
the Papel Festival. We'll come to each other with papers. All right, that's all the time we have for News Now at 10. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Dan Kloeffler.
And I'm Katie Brace. Have a great night.
Shane Windstorm reviews the latest movies and tells you what's hot at the box office in Hollywood Highlights. Fridays on News Now at 7 and 10. Welcome to another broadcast day of WNDS Television, serving New Hampshire and northern Massachusetts. WNDS-TV is owned and operated by CTV of Derry Incorporated and is licensed by the Federal Communications Commission to transmit on UHF Channel 50 with the effective radiated power of 4,790,000 watts. Transmitting facilities are located on top of Merle Hill in Hudson, New Hampshire, with studio facilities at 50 Television Place in Derry, New Hampshire. We hope you enjoy watching the wins. WNDS TV 50.
The Streets of San Francisco, a Quinn Martin production. Starring Carl Malden. Also starring Michael Douglas. With guest stars Tim O'Connor, Cal Bellini, Brad David. Tonight's episode, Trail of the Serpent.